Welcome to the Global News Podcast, where we go behind the headlines and why they really matter. On today's episode, we're discussing the US military officials who are already in Ukraine. Why are they there? Well, they're there to discuss the efforts to end the war, a plan that reportedly echoes Russian demands. EU foreign ministers say Kyiv and Europe must be involved in any peace plan. We're joined by the Russia editor at BBC Monitoring, Vitaly Shevchenko. Let's start off then with these unconfirmed reports. We're seeing these proposals which may include Ukraine having to give up territory, dramatically shrinking its military. It feels like Groundhog Day that we've been here before.
It does. I saw these demands earlier, back in June when I was in Istanbul for the second round of talks between Russia and Ukraine. Well, here they are. And essentially, it's Vladimir Putin's wish list in Ukraine that amounts to a demand for Ukraine's capitulation. It not only envisages control over territory, but also a degree of political control over Ukraine as well. Now, the fact that since early June, we haven't really made much progress of amending, or I should say the West hasn't made any progress on amending Russia's terms for a settlement in Ukraine. It raises questions about whether it was worth it at all to engage with Russia diplomatically. And secondly, if it's true that this latest so-called peace plan, in big quote marks, if it was drafted jointly with America, does that mean it supports these really, really maximalist demands that we have been hearing from Moscow? Is Washington still an independent mediator in the whole process of starting some kind of movement towards peace in Ukraine? But if all this is true, that's really bad news for Ukraine and also its allies in Europe, who have apparently been not involved at all.
Interesting stuff where it comes to the fact that there could be conversations happening behind the scenes and the impact that can have on the eventual path to peace.
It's all behind the scenes, and the impression that I've got since Donald Trump came to power earlier this year is that, well, he's kind of a lot more friendly towards Vladimir Putin than he is towards Volodymyr Zelensky. And the Ukrainian president, he is currently finding himself in a really difficult, maybe even impossible position, because the Russians, they're advancing slowly. It costs them a lot in terms of people being killed, their soldiers being killed, but they're moving or edging slowly ahead in Donetsk region, in Zaporizhia region. They are just half an hour down the road from Zaporizhia, which is a major city in southeastern Ukraine. Hundreds of thousands of people are still there. And once the Russians get within artillery range of Zaporizhia, it's going to be disastrous for them. There's also this corruption scandal that erupted in Kyiv earlier this month.
Yes, because how does that impact the diplomatic efforts as well? Well, because domestically there's that issue. So how does that affect Parliament? And let's say if there is a peace plan put on or a proposal put on, in order to come to an agreement on what's happening if there's if there's a lack of confidence within the current government?
It affects the whole process hugely. Because can you imagine how much more difficult it's going to be for Volodymyr Zelensky, his allies in the West, to keep justifying continued assistance to Ukraine in terms of money, weapons, if there's someone from Volodymyr Zelensky's inner circle, a friend, who has literally a toilet seat made out of gold in his flat. And that person, Timur Mindich, is involved in this alleged scheme which embezzled $100 million involving energy in Ukraine. And you will know how hard Ukraine's energy has been hit by the Russians. It's a key target for Russia, who's trying to make Ukrainians cold and live in the dark as winter approaches. Now we're told that key people who were friends with Volodymyr Zelensky, they stole a lot of money. So now may be a perfect moment for both Russia and the United States, and they appear to be acting in unison, to put more pressure on Volodymyr Zelensky. And also this moment is probably the most difficult and the darkest in Ukraine, literally, since the start of the full-scale invasion.
And this is happening with the backdrop of Russia continuing to bombard Ukraine. We're heading into the winter months as well. A lot of difficult issues, factors to ponder. And then we've also got this potential proposal of a peace plan. And with that, what sort of concessions or what sort of, what would Ukraine be willing to concede on the path to peace?
I think it's a question of how much assistance it gets to keep on fighting. Because on the one hand, there's no doubt that Ukrainians, they're determined to preserve their statehood, to stop more Ukrainian land from being occupied. But on the other hand, it's equally true that without foreign Western assistance, they would just have nothing to fight with. So when it comes to concessions, let's think about the bigger picture. Ukraine gets invaded in 2014, sort of on the sly by Russia, who denied invading. Then again in 2022, openly, tens of thousands of people died, more than, maybe hundreds, both Russians and Ukrainians. And now we are in a situation when the world's most powerful nation, America, apparently jointly drafted this quote-unquote peace plan, maybe even supported whatever they got from Russia, despite the fact that it's clearly Ukraine that's being invaded in violation of international law. So whenever Ukrainians hear about concessions, they keep asking, why are we expected to make those concessions? And when Marco Rubio, the American Secretary of State, he tweeted yesterday, I think, that, to resolve this war, both sides need to make important concessions. What we are yet to hear is what concessions exactly is Russia being asked to make, because the conditions that I heard in Istanbul earlier this year and the conditions the demands that we're hearing yet again, they indicate that they suggest that Ukraine's being asked to give up a lot in exchange for nothing.
Finally, President Trump wanted to end this war in 24 hours. He said he could. It's not happened. And we want to look further down the line in, let's say, a hopeful manner to see peace eventually. How likely is that off the back of what we've just been talking about, and how soon could we predict there to be some sort of an agreement, some sort of a ceasefire, some hope for people?
I'm afraid, and it really saddens me to say so, not anytime soon. And the reason why I'm saying that is twofold. One, the West, least of all Donald Trump, they've given Vladimir Putin no reason whatsoever to stop or reconsider his policy towards Ukraine. And secondly, Ukraine is not desperate enough to just lay down their arms and stop fighting. Therefore, I think this will go on.
Vitaly, thank you so much for your time. That's all from us for now, but if you want to catch more of our world stories, make sure you download the Global News Podcast. You can find it wherever you download your podcasts from, and also subscribe to our BBC News YouTube channel and give this video a like. And also, if there are any stories you think we should be covering, drop us a comment below. For now, thanks so much for watching.